All right, bell ringer's up. Explain the gate control theory. Also, what are the types of blindness we discussed yesterday in class? There we go. So like I said, I'll have the study guide out here. It's more just, you don't really have to fill it out. It's just really knowing what's going to be on the test, right? What to look at, what to study for. That's about it. But if you just turn that in for tonight and into tomorrow, I'll give you credit for it. Obviously, the vocab, I'll have that posted so you can turn your vocab terms in. We'll have that test tomorrow. The next week, we will watch the Stanford prison experiment. That'll be it. That'll be it. What's that? I think we'll finish Wednesday, like midway through class, maybe. It's not a long movie, but probably midway through class, I'd have to say. We're not here Thursday at all. You're not in this class Thursday at all. Yeah, we should be finished. Man, sorry about that. There you go. Yeah, really. You finished? Yeah. Go ahead. I like it though because it connects with It's funny how they do it. Okay, so explain the gate control theory. What do we have? We got here. Kiara, go ahead. It's like whether it was like a compliment, like huh? But non-painful things are presented as painful because we found other things. Okay, all right, good. So it's in a way you're shifting your selective attention, right? And this is the idea that there's like a neural gateway that is blocking incoming sensory information to your brain, your sensory cortex, where you're receiving some of these maybe painful stimulation, right? Okay, so in a way, you're just blocking that pain by shifting your selective attention. Okay, and like I mentioned yesterday, people have different pain tolerance. Okay, and it's kind of dependent on the person and how that could be blocked. All right, good, good. And there's many medication out there. There's medication out there that blocks the receptive information, the sensory information to your brain for a short time period, or maybe just mitigates it for a short period of time until obviously you alleviate that pressure, alleviate that pain. Okay, good. What are types of blindness we discussed yesterday in class? So this is kind of what we finished up with. We talked about illusions then and went through some examples. Go ahead, Raven, give me one of them. Okay, all right. So yesterday, I don't know if you're here for that. Did you come in late yesterday? No? Oh. Well, I had three types of blindness up yesterday on the slides that I went over. And the one example, I don't know if I got to show you the video then of the selective attention, the moonwalk and bear. No, oh, okay, I'll show it today if I have some time. But go ahead, Allison.
Inattentional blindness.
Good.
Change blindness and choice blindness.
Yeah, good job. And what is inattentional blindness?
Failing to see objects when our attention is directed elsewhere.
Yeah, good job. So again, selective attention, right? Depending on what we're focusing on, we might not pick up or perceive something if our attention's focused on one certain, let's say, stimulus. Good. And then you said change blindness. What do you have for change blindness? Hadley, what do you have for change blindness? Do you have that? Okay, yeah, good job. Good job. And I know I gave the example yesterday. Always fall into that trick with my girlfriend where she gets her hair dyed or hair cut. Oh, do you notice anything? I'm like, no, sorry. And I get yelled at. But again, with the environment too. So maybe it's something within the room that changes. Maybe it's a poster on the wall. Maybe it's something like written on the board, right? It's something that maybe we don't pick up on at first. Okay. And maybe our attention again is shifted elsewhere. All right, choice blindness. What do we have here? Caitlin? You don't have that one. Oh, you didn't write it down. Probably because you're on your phone. Yeah, okay. Allison, what do you got? What do you got?
Failing to notice change in the previously selected.
Okay, yeah, good job. Good job. So again, something there where we're maybe not focused on that. Again, type of an environment. Maybe it's something that we're ignorant to. Maybe it's something that we're trying to avoid. Maybe it's a situation where our person that we don't like to associate with, we just kind of avoid it. We try to ignore it. Yeah, good job. Good job. All right, is there any questions on that, guys? So types of blindness we went over yesterday. We went over gate control theory. All right, terms for today. There we are. So we're going to talk about Gestalt psychology again. I know we mentioned it in chapter 1. But we're going to go over the laws and how we group certain things together to make sense of it. So these are the last terms of the chapter. Once you're finished, at the end of class, you can turn in your vocab for this chapter. Receive points for.
So from 34 through 30.
You got it. What? What's that? Me? Wow, you got a 2 today. Holy cow. All right. 2, 2, 2. Wake up on the wrong side of the bed today.
I feel like I was out there.
All right. All right, we good? Is that enough time? All right, good, good. All right, Gestalt psychology. What do we have? Do you remember what that is? I know we talked about in chapter 1 when we're reviewing perspectives of psych. Do we remember? Chapter 1 was pretty far away. I know that. A long time ago. Allison, go ahead.
It's when you perceive the whole part instead of
All right, yeah. So you perceive the whole, right? You're trying to group things and understand the whole rather than the sum of its parts. So if you're looking at an object, you're looking at a design, you're going to look what makes sense, right? So if you're looking at a square, okay, you don't identify it as 4 different lines coming together. You know it as a square. Same thing with triangle, right? You don't see it as 3 different lines coming together at points. You see it as a triangle. And societal standards set that, okay, through socialization. Right, as a young child, I'm sure you've all had the games where you're trying to put the pieces into whatever block it's associated with. So if it's a circle, you're jamming the circle. A lot of times I like to see kids when I'm trying to put the circle through the square. It's like, what are you doing? Knock it off. But again, just trying to understand shapes, sizes, okay, and how our society especially is associated with these types of shapes and understanding the whole rather than the sum of its parts. Okay, and there's many studies of areas all around the world where they try to analyze this disconnection. Okay, where they try to analyze people of another society and see if they understand architectural designs and really just shapes and really how our society is based off of. Okay, and it kind of refers back to that story you read about Kenji. You guys remember that? Yeah, when he was obviously he had no connection to Western architecture, and probably if he was placed in New York City, this would just blow his mind. He wouldn't be able to live in this type of environment, and he had no idea with spatial depth, perception, nothing. Okay, he always thought the mountain that was kind of close to him was minute, was really small because of how far away it was. In all reality, it was just his perception, his understanding of vision just wasn't there because he was secluded for so long. All right, Gestalt psychology, like I was mentioning, like Allison stated, is just trying to understand the whole picture. Okay, reviewing the whole rather than the sum of its parts. I think in the beginning of chapter 1, I showed the chair. Okay, there's many different parts to the chair. Okay, we all know there's backrest, armrest, there's a seat. Okay, at the bottom you have the wheels and the legs. All right, we don't just associate it with all those differences. Okay, we know it as a chair. Okay, so we're grouping it all together for its understanding in our mind as a chair. Okay, so today we're going to go over some laws of Gestalt psychology where we're viewing and understanding, maybe grouping certain items, things together in these groups and making sense of it as a whole rather than just individualistic. So like I was mentioning, Prewired, in our society, we're knowing shapes. Okay, at a very young age, squares, circles, triangles, rectangles, you name it. Okay, and if you go to another society, maybe in, let's say, Africa, parts of Asia, or maybe the tribes like where Kenji was from, okay, obviously this would be a little bit difficult for him to perceive that as a square. Right? He just doesn't have that in his socialization, okay, in his development, in his experience. Okay, it wasn't something that was practiced over a long period of time, like we do in our society. So pre-wired really just means we understand these types of objects, we understand these types of methods, and that's all through experience. So we're inferring it back to nature versus nurture. Well, you got to understand that maybe it is a little bit more nurture. Maybe it is a little bit more experience than what's actually inherited to us, especially with Kenji. Right? That reading I thought was eye-opening in a way with his perception, with his understanding of the world. All right, so I know we went over this figure and ground. Okay, so this was another perceptual set. Okay, that we talked about yesterday. And with figure and ground, it's very hard to see both items at once, right? It's very hard to depict and visualize 2 faces in a vase at the same time. It's almost near impossible. Our visual perceptions trying to understand, is it vase or 2 faces? Okay, it's very difficult to apply them both at the same time. Okay, And again, with figure, this is a part of the pattern commands attention that stands out. So this figure especially, and the ones we went over yesterday with the faces, the women, right? The one was a face and it said liar spelled out. What grabs your attention first? Again, it's very difficult to really view both at the same time. And same with that picture that I showed yesterday in class with the two horses, right? And riding through the mountainside and the faces. Okay, if you're trying to focus your attention on both, it'd be almost impossible to do. Yeah, you might be able in your perceptual or in your peripheral vision see these faces as you're focusing on the horses, but again, it'd be hard to do. It'd be hard to depict both at the same time. All right, closure. So this is really the first law principle of Gestalt psychology I want to go over. Closure is just really filling in the blanks. So if we're presented an image, if we're presented some view, maybe it's a poster, whatever, and it's missing some of the breaks, it's missing some of the lines, we can visualize in our mind and obviously fill in the blanks, okay, and focus our attention to understanding what the object should be, even though it might be broken apart. Okay, even though it might not be filled perfectly, let's say a square or triangle or circle, if there's parts that are missing, we can fill it in our mind and understand that it should be a circle, right? And organize it accordingly. So whenever there is a presentation, whether there is an understanding of maybe it's a report, okay, we can fill in the blanks, we can fill in and understand that maybe there's stuff missing that we just kind of automatically assume that it's there. And a good example is this figure here. So obviously the triangle, it's missing its lines. The circle aren't fully filled out, and the triangle underneath isn't completed either. But we can understand with our mind through closure that these are supposed to be circles on the edges. The triangle is supposed to be there, even though there's no lines. And the triangle underneath the image, okay, obviously is supposed to be a triangle, even though there's breaks. Okay, there it's not completely filled out. And again, that's what closure is establishing with Gestalt psychology. We're not focusing on the individual parts. We're focusing on the whole. Does that make sense? Circles kind of look like Pac-Man. I don't know. That's what really stands out for me. All right, here's another example here. So the circle's in a square. Again, we know it's a square, right? We know that the circles should be completed. And in our mind, we're perceiving it as it should be complete, even though it's not. And again, this form of this view, this perspective of psychology that we can just fill in the blanks. All right, law of similarity. So law of similarity is we tend to group similar objects together, okay? Whether it's associating with columns, rows, whether it's associating with similarity, okay? With understanding where we can associate groups into similar sections. So in this case, well, do we see columns or rows? I think more columns because I like to keep everything accordingly. All X's, all O's, all X's, all O's. Or do you see it in rows? XO, XO, X, right? It's depending on the way you perceive it, the way you try to organize it in your mind and try to perceive this information. Raven, how would you associate it? Columns or rows? Columns. What about you, Hadley? Columns. Okay. I think we're all on the same page there. What's up? Columns. Yep. The columns like coming down. Well, Kiara, what would you think? Rows or columns? Columns. Okay. Oh, law of proximity. So tend to group objects together for how close they are. Okay. For how close they are together. So this is with pairing groups together. Okay. So trying to pair groups together. In this case, 5 X's, 5 O's, or 5 pairs of X's and O's. I would probably say the 5 pairs of X's and O's. Okay, so we're trying to group these two together as how close they are, right? You won't just separate them because, well, it would look a little odd. So we try to group these together by pairs. Again, this is really a cultural, a societal standard where this psychology approach came from, this perspective. How we group things, how we pair these items together. Like I said, if you go somewhere else around the world, maybe they see it a little bit differently. So proximity, again, how close these items are and how we associate them with each other. And you could apply it really to anything, right? Maybe it's restaurants in the town. I think it's odd. JoJo's and Pizza Light are very, very close together. Pretty much the same restaurant in a way. Maybe not. Don't tell your boss I said that. So, okay. And all the fast food joints are kind of close together right in front of Walmart. Proximity. All right, continuity. So principle that prefer perceptions connected and continuous figures with disconnected ones. So we assume that this line just continues on, right? That it's, even though it's intersected, that these lines continue in a really forever line of motion. With these lines especially, okay, obviously they intersect, they collide, but we understand that they'll continue on, that they won't just stop. And that's this idea of continuation, continuity. So same with if you're looking at a railroad, okay, you're visualizing, you're looking it down the whole length of the railroad itself. Eventually it looks like, and you're perceiving that the two iron rods would come together eventually. But we all know that could never happen, right? But in our mind, it looks like those two lines are coming together as it's going off in the horizon, as it's going off in the distance. But in all reality, we know that they're going to stay parallel evenly, really until it ends, right? Until maybe that railroad comes to a conclusion. That's a good example of it, really. Okay. Law of common fate. So principle, objects share a common motion or destination. So there's many good examples you can come up with common fate here, and how we can associate. Maybe it's a gaggle of geese, right? Maybe it's a flock of birds. What is it with lions? Pride? I think it's pride. Lions pride, yeah. Herd of buffaloes, you name it. Or jocks, I don't know. You can associate it here with the school. Nerds, geeks. There you go. But common fate, we group people, we group, let's say, animals together with their destination, with their similarities. School of fish, that's good. Murder of crows. Anybody ever hear that one before? Murder of crows. Never really heard that one before. All right, so law of Pragnance. So this is really just how we try to perceive things. That's just easier for us. Okay, we might skip over a few things because obviously it's something that we maybe try to exclude. So this is a good one. A bird in the bush. Isn't that what it says? Raven, a bird in the bush. What's missing? What's wrong with it? Oh, okay. There's two those. Good job. Didn't catch you, right? But if you first glance at it, you might skip over it. I know when I'm writing, let's say, an email or maybe a article, a lot of times I write the same word over and over again, a couple times in a row, like the or and I go back and read through. It's like, oh, I can't believe I missed that, right? And it's just something that when our mind's continuing and understanding what we're writing, eventually we might actually misplace something, right? Or we might look over something that we're writing down in an article or an email. I'm sure that happened to many of you in here before, where maybe your thoughts just got, as you're thinking, you're trying to write down your thoughts, and eventually you might have a mistake like that. All right, so with perceptual set, okay, this is really just perceiving all the stimulation at once. And again, if it's something that might cause anxiety, right? If we're caught, like I was saying before, in the car, like if we're coming to a collided section or a cross section on the road, we might actually turn down the volume because we're trying to focus our selective attention on one thing. Okay. When I was younger, when I was at home alone, I would always hear creaks in the house, and I'd always think someone's out to get me, right? Or someone's in the house that's kind of trying to murder me or something like that. And again, it's just really just picking up on or heighten our stimulation, heighten our perception of certain sounds that occur when in all reality, it's something we deal with, right? It's something that we might have sensory adaptation before, but since the certain environment situation has changed, we actually might pick up on the stimulus a little bit more. And I remember when I was younger, what was it called? Sinister. You guys ever see the movie Sinister? Pretty scary movie. Kind of went along with the Annabelle Lees, I guess. And I saw that movie and I was at home alone. It's like, oh, geez, he's coming out to get me. Actually, my one friend came with a wolf mask and scared me. It was pretty ridiculous, actually. But I thought it was hilarious. All right, so like I was saying before, and the cultures all around the world, with perception, things could be totally different. Okay, things could be totally different. And oh, I think my PowerPoint's colliding again. But anyway, going along the lines with Kenji and culture, okay, and how all around the world we might perceive differently. Okay, certain stimulus, right? It's obviously with agriculture or with our architecture, with lines, we group things together. And that's again with Gestalt psychology, the understanding we don't look at it some of its parts, okay, or we look at it some of its parts, we don't break it down individualistic. Okay, in cultures all around the world, that doesn't happen. Right? Some cases, it doesn't happen at all. All right, so that's what I have. Again, test tomorrow. I'll just put out this guide.